Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be starting our office hours session here with Bart Bradshaw over at Blip Billboards here in just about 5 minutes. Going to be a very interesting session. If you have any questions on how digital billboard advertising works, how effective it is, anything about that at all, please feel free to post those questions there, and we will certainly be passing those along to Bart during the presentation. Again, we'll be kicking off here in just about 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to get kicked off with this afternoon's office hour session here in just a couple of minutes here. So if you have any questions at all about how digital billboards work or their effectiveness or anything like that, please feel free to just go ahead and post those as a question there in the Q&A, and we will certainly address those as best we can and pass them along to Bart here so he can answer as well. Again, we'll get kicked off here in just a couple of minutes. Hey gang, Eric Shanefield here with Local Marketing Institute. Welcome you to this Thursday's office hours session. Today, we're going to be talking about digital billboards, something that's actually relatively new to me as well, but we've got a really great expert here, Bart Bradshaw with Blip Billboards. We'll be talking all about it here. I'm excited to get to him in a second. But first, just a few housekeeping notes. Hey, if you're watching us on Zoom and you have any questions at all for Bart about digital billboards, what they are, how they work, their effectiveness, anything like that, there's a Q&A button there on your Zoom control bar. Just click that, type your question in, submit it. I'm going to be monitoring them here, and we'll pass them along to Bart as we get it. If you're watching us live in our Facebook group, LMI Connect, you can just post your questions there as a comment below the video. We'll be monitoring that as well, and you can certainly submit questions. We'll pass those along to Bart. If you happen to be watching this archived on the LMI website or on our social media channels afterwards, you can post your question as a comment there, and we will try to pass those along to Bart as well. Just a quick little note, this session is being recorded. It'll be available in our Facebook group immediately afterwards. By the way, if you're interested, that's LMI Connect. Just look that up on Facebook. It's free to join. We simulcast these live there every week. This will be also put into the LMI website. Actually, it's available for these Under the Hood sessions are available for everybody on our website by Tuesday. And if you're interested, we have a VIP area on our website with over 100 actual video training sessions on all different kinds of digital marketing topics for local businesses. You can go check that out on our website as well, and there's a free trial. Over 100 videos. Check them out and see what you think. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Bart Bradshaw with Blip Billboards. And today we're going to talk about digital billboards, what they are, how they work, and something kind of revolutionary that Blip has done to make them accessible to just about any business or marketing agency out there. So Bart, I'm just going to let you take over from here, my friend.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for having me, Eric. This is really exciting. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to start off just by telling you guys the founding story of Blip. So I think that kind of goes into, what are digital billboards. It kind of explains that and how we created a startup out of it. So, our two co-founders, Brent and James, they were sitting in a restaurant and they didn't work together. They both were separately entrepreneurs. Brent had a company that he was trying to grow. I think all of us are familiar with trying to figure out what's the right way to grow this company. And James was in marketing. And so he asked James, and by the way, James had been doing some marketing work with digital billboards specifically. So he asked James, hey, how much would it cost to get on a billboard for a day? And James said, well, that's not how billboards work. And Brent said, what do you mean? Billboards, they've gone digital. Why can't I just buy a day's worth or even less? They switch out, every 8 seconds or so. And James said, well, that's just not how the contracts work. And so they got into a discussion about billboard advertising and how the industry was working. And basically, digital billboards were introduced in 2005, 2006 as the next step to make it easier for advertisements to get up on digital billboards. And what I'm talking about is those big billboards you see on the side of the highway or in town. If you're looking at my screen right now, you can see an example that says self-serve billboards, Blip. So these big billboards, they can be a great medium for broadcast advertising. And Brent just kind of kept thinking about, why is this not available? If there's digital billboards today, why can't small businesses or people with smaller budgets than the traditional billboard advertisers, which make up about 2% of the market, by the way, why can't they buy at a smaller increment, like a flip or a half a day or even just one day, instead of a minimum contract of about 4 weeks to half a year, and at least $1,000 or $2,000, especially on the digital billboards, to $10,000, $20,000 plus. So over the next few months, they talked back and forth about this. Brent kept coming back to James and said, I think there's a business opportunity here if they're not doing it. They were looking to see if there's someone who provided the option of getting on a billboard for those smaller increments that, for a small business, Brent was saying like his, it wouldn't make sense for him to allocate his whole marketing budget to a billboard. Most people recognize that, you need a balanced marketing mix across multiple channels. And even if you have a balanced mix across digital online, you're still missing out potentially on some of the broadcast opportunities, partly because it's just not really available or not feasible from a budget perspective. So they decided to go and ask one of the sign operators who owned about 40 signs across Utah and Idaho and a few other places what they thought. And they were worried that this sign operator would kind of shut them down and say, no, that's not our business model. It's potentially disruptive to us. But the sign operator was actually super excited. It was Yesco. They're based here in Utah. And that's who James had a business relationship with. And Pat McDonald from Yesco said, you know what? This is revolutionary. It definitely needs to happen. If we can open up digital billboards to the long tail of small businesses in this way, that would be huge for our industry and huge for the small businesses to be able to use billboard advertising at the kind of rate or in a way that makes sense for them, right? Allocating the right amount of budget for their budget. So that's kind of the founding story. They decided to test it out with Yesco. They did it across about 40 signs. And it went really well. They tested for a good long year after creating the technology, creating the software platform where they could just help anybody upload their own artwork and get on a billboard within a couple of days.
So really interesting question came in that I think is going to lead right into something you're going to talk about here soon. But I got someone who just said, hey, so let me back up here. Why digital billboards? Why not just focus and spend my dollars on more kind of traditional digital advertising? Why add billboards to the mix here? Which I think you're going to go into, right?
Absolutely. And it's kind of at the crux of the issue, right? Like there's all these different channels and mediums that we can advertise on. Digital online has kind of democratized advertising to everybody, so we can get out there in front of just about anybody through that channel, and that's fantastic. And there's a bunch of channels there. Like it's not just one channel, digital online. It's like a bunch, right? You've got Facebook and Google ads and your own website. You've got display ads, all of that, and that can be really effective. What our hope is, and what we're testing and what we are finding is that by adding digital billboard advertising to your digital online marketing mix, you actually get a better overall ROI or return on ad spend. And that's proven out through uplift in your search traffic, uplift in your conversions when you add kind of billboard advertising at the top of your funnel. Because it increases everything else. It uplifts everything else.
Right. It amplifies what you're spending further down the funnel.
Exactly. Because you're just creating that awareness at the broadcast level instead of creating that awareness at for example, display on a one-to-one digital online level. And it's a little different, but basically you can do your full funnel. Let me actually pull up a funnel to show the way we think about it. You can create awareness through targeted advertising, which we all do online. We all create, the right audiences, and we all go after those audiences with targeted campaigns. What we're saying here is that through TV, radio, and billboards, it's kind of this bigger broadcast medium. It's not as targeted. And ultimately, if on an impression level, you're getting more impressions for the people that eventually end up down this funnel, you potentially are paying less to get that awareness covered. And then once you target them or retarget them online, you're actually paying less to get them to convert ultimately. So that's kind of the main thing that we're going for.
Good. I think we've got some skeptics out here who are looking for some numbers, and just to reassure you guys, Bart shared some stuff ahead of time, and he's going to actually share some numbers that back up these thoughts and along the way. So it's not just stuff that we're pulling out, but hang in there. It's some good questions coming through.
Absolutely. Cool. So, and billboard advertising is not new, by the way. You guys know, you've seen billboards. You've seen Coca-Cola and Nike and local law firms and others doing billboard advertising. There's no question that billboard advertising works. I think the real question, at least to some degree, you've seen it. You've become aware of brands or had brands, you've seen brand building being done on billboards. The question in my mind, especially as I joined Blip and started looking into this, is, well, how does it compare to the other options out there, right? How does it actually impact an overall marketing campaign or advertising campaign? And that's where I'm going to dive in here. I'm going to show you some stats based on the testing that has been done for the billboard industry. And then two, I'm going to dive into a case study to show you what we've seen with one of our partners. And then three, I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the testing that we're doing as well. So the stats basically, again, what I was saying was, and what I think Eric said well, is any top of the funnel marketing that you do can amplify the effectiveness of the rest of the funnel. In billboard advertising, what we're saying is currently, and I don't know that this will always be the case, but currently, not only is it effective in amplifying, but it's actually a good return on your investment, better than if you're doing your very top of the funnel online in general. So if you add billboard advertising, what this graph is saying, you can have an uplift in any online activity by 31%, an uplift in your social media engagement by 56%. So people are seeing these billboards out in real life, and then they are more likely to engage and be interested in your social media when they find it. And third, online searches go up 80%. So if you think about seeing a billboard, a lot of people will see a billboard and they'll wonder what the brand is, or maybe they see a message that seems relevant to them. They'll go and search that. And so there's it's hard to actually track, but we are finding ways to do that we feel are pretty valid. So yeah, go ahead.
I was going to just dive in here. This actually jives where we've done some other office hours where we've looked at online display advertising, and it jives with the same metrics that I found there. That the online display advertising, this awareness type advertising, which is hard to quantify, and everybody wants that last lead gen piece.
Yeah.
But they found that, hey, that display advertising, that branding type advertising, actually boosted Google My Business stats. So primarily through branded searches, where people are like, okay, if I'm thinking about an attorney, or if I'm thinking about this kind of restaurant or whatever it may happen to be, that's what I'm actually going to search for. And there's actually some great data out there that shows lift in GMB searches as well. So just to put this all into context, we oftentimes see a lot of people think about lead gen or inbound marketing campaigns when it's the branding that sets the stage. And then when people are ready to make a buy or ready to make a decision, they're more likely to search for the brand or click on the GMB link or the ad of someone they're already familiar with.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So it's the same thing you're seeing here.
And, every medium has its kind of differences in how people perceive it or what it kind of feels like. If you see something on TV, kind of feels legit. They're spending a decent amount of money. They're on TV. They've made this advertisement, and there's a bit of brand building to go with that awareness. We think that there is a certain amount of, like, if you see a billboard, that you not only saw it, but you also know that everyone else has seen that billboard that drives by. So there are some things that we know we just can't track, and what we're trying to do is track what we can, and then use research and other things to kind of estimate what does this mean. And social media is the same, right? If you're on social media and you see a bunch of engagement, that can build a brand as well. So we're not saying that this is the only thing. All we're saying is, hey, this is an interesting medium that has its place. When you add it to an existing campaign, it provides uplift. And in many cases, that uplift can be less expensive than how you get it elsewhere. So let me dive into this case study that does show one of our partners and their success with this. I think I'm on the right thing here already. So you may have heard of a marketing agency and really a marketing platform called Marketing 360. They found Blip because they started getting interested in this little bit of a brand revolution. Like they think that branding is super important, and the more that there are many brands out there, and that kind of everyone can start their own brand, they've seen this importance in branding. And so they started looking at billboards as a possible way to do some broadcast advertising, to make some brand awareness, and to build brands. They found us through our marketing efforts, and they just started spending organically. And they started spending on their own ads, Marketing 360 ads along the highways in Colorado, where they're based, along the highways in other places where they had some of their customers, and some places I think where they didn't have any or many existing customers. And what they started doing was tracking their uplift, any uplift that they could see via Google Analytics and then in their website and their conversions as well.
And by the way, I know these guys. They're literally just up the road here. I know the CEO. These guys are very digital savvy too.
Yeah, they're super legit. So what they say is, we recognize an increase in site traffic, so people coming to their website, in conversions, and in brand awareness once they launch these campaigns. So what they say down here in this graph is, for new leads, they saw an increase of 12.92%. For new accounts, an increase of 18.8%. For account open ratio, so people would actually open their accounts more, 5.25%. And then for average customer value, which is huge, an increase of 34.64%. So
that's a big metric there.
That's huge. I mean, they're getting more value from their customers. They're getting the right customers in the door and getting more value from them, because these customers are seeing in billboard advertising, this brand, and they've got really simple billboard displays that basically just have their big logo, Marketing 360, and then it says something like the #1 marketing platform for small businesses. So pretty clear message. It looks good.
And they basically did a before-after test, right? They did 4 months before and then 4 months after.
Yes, exactly. And what they did, they were establishing a baseline, right? They were saying, okay, let's not change anything else in our marketing mix. Let's just advertise the way we have been, and then let's add digital billboards and see what happens. And so that's how they tracked this increase. And I can't say the specific numbers, but they told us what this meant in terms of conversions and the ROI, and it was big. So they actually had, when they had their salespeople calling out on customers in the areas where they advertise versus other areas, the conversion rate in those areas increased significantly as well. And then they could monetize what that meant in terms of ROI. And it was huge. And that's why they've actually increased their spend by quite a bit over the last 8 months since they adopted Blip, just for themselves, let alone now for their clients who they're representing. Well, now they're reselling, billboards as part of all of the different marketing things they do for their clients.
Yeah. Interesting side note, Bart. That's how this whole thing got started. I was driving down I-25 right near the Longmont exit, and I saw Marketing 360 on a digital billboard down there. I'm going, how in the world did they get on this? And I called up JB up there and just said, and they said, well, hey, this is who we're, and that's how I wound up finding you guys was through this. So it was
Okay,
very,
awesome.
very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, they are awesome to work with. Here's just a little bit more of clarity around kind of where they did their testing and some of the specific conversion rates that they saw increase and change in clicks. So, the way they did this was fairly straightforward. It was basically trying to track, here's our baseline. Let's try to track now through Google Analytics and any other analytics tools that we have to see our website traffic and just see what happens. And the way they're able to kind of control it was they had specific areas across the country where they advertise and then other areas where they didn't. And so they could see, like, if they're just generally growing, that would have shown through the control group.
Makes sense.
So that's the case study I wanted to present. Maybe does it make sense to stop here for just a minute and see if there's any more questions, or should we keep going?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions that came in, which I think you're going to wind up getting to here. But one from Christian says, can you track digital billboard impressions? If so, how? And what constitutes a digital billboard impression?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. To be completely straightforward, it's not super sophisticated at this level compared to, for example, online. Like with online, it's pretty much one-to-one. It's pretty clear when you've gotten an impression or not. Not as clear as we'd like, right? I mean, sometimes an impression means it was on your screen, but you didn't actually look at it. But it's a little more clear. With digital billboards, there's a couple of ways you can potentially track impressions. One is you can just estimate based on, traffic counts, based on location data that in that area. And there are some reasonably sophisticated companies that provide that location data. Honestly, right now, Blip, because we rely heavily on our small business advertisers to basically know their areas, their local area, we don't do a lot more to supplement what the sign operators give us in terms of data about their signs. So on one side of our marketplace, we partner with sign operators, and they may have 1, 10, 40, even 100 plus signs on our network. They provide us with the data about those signs, how many impressions they estimate per day. And usually that's based on either the traffic data that they get from their local geography, their local government, or there are a couple of institutions like Geopath that have kind of audited location data that provide those numbers for those signs as well. So we rely currently on that, and there are ways that we can potentially supplement that. We just haven't invested in it yet, and that's partly because, again, we rely heavily on our small business owners to kind of know those areas. They're like, we know there's tons of people who see these signs that are just around the corner from the business that we're running, and so we're confident that we want to be on that sign.
Right, and digital billboards are usually some of the most prominent ones. They're not just the ones that are stuck way off in the sign over in a quarter that you can't see them. But right. I think it's important to let the audience here know that there's really kind of two different kinds of metrics here. The one metric, and you guys call them a blip, this is how many times your message shows on that billboard and for how long.
Yep.
And then the other factor is, well, how many people then see that blip or
yep.
see that view of your ad that drive by. And that's where and you got some pretty sophisticated data in your system where you can see, are these high traffic, low traffic times, and I think as we get into the system, people will be able to see that you can choose high volume traffic times, low volume traffic times, different days of the week, and you can get a pretty good estimate of how many people may actually wind up seeing your ad through your system. But I think I appreciate you saying that your data is based upon the traffic data that the sign operators themselves are providing you.
Yeah. And then the other way that you can start to get a little more sophisticated, at least we're kind of testing it, not we, but the industry in general is, for example, you can have cameras that are looking at cars as they pass, and some are even, using computer vision and advanced algorithms to see if people are actually looking up at the signs. It's all pretty early days, and it's not widely adopted yet, and in many ways, we're all kind of trying to figure out, what about privacy, and what do we really want to count, and all of that. But there, we are moving in that direction, to become more sophisticated, so we can just, close the loop and figure out exactly who's seen what and when, and I think we'll get closer. I don't think we'll ever know exactly, because it's just very hard to capture all of that.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if somewhere down the road beacon technology doesn't get sophisticated enough where they can't actually begin to track that. But that's a whole separate discussion.
Yeah.
A couple questions coming in, really good ones, talking about where they operate and white label. We were definitely going to get to that. Bart, I think for right now, I'd love for you just to kind of maybe just dive on into the system here a little bit if you're ready for that.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm on the website. It's just blipbillboards.com. And I'm going to log in through just a company.
By the way, gang, I also set up an account out here. This is what I like about it is it is self-serve. It feels like you're operating in, Google ads or Facebook ads, the way you operate your campaigns here.
Yeah, that's what we've tried to create. So I'm under a company name called London Littles. They do rain boots, and they have a draft. This is actually my company. It's a side hustle that I do with my wife, and it's super fun. And we've been trying to figure out, do we do billboards or not? Do we, eat our own dog food, with me working at Blip? And we've decided to go for it. So I have a campaign that I, am ready to launch once our artwork is complete. But I'm just going to go show you. That was just to kind of show you, I am planning to eat our own dog food here. I'm going to show you. So this is if you sign up for an account, this is the main dashboard. You would just create a new campaign. So plus new campaign. And then it goes through this kind of simple steps. So first, you find the locations. Second, you create a budget that makes sense for your brand. Third, you schedule it. When during the day or week do you want it to go? And you can have a start and end time, just like any other self-serve platform. Then you upload your artwork and you review, and then you can launch it. And within 24 to 48 hours, you can be live on the billboards you selected. The only thing that takes a minute there, 24 to 48 hours, is it has to be moderated on our end, on the Blip end, and then we do that pretty quickly. And then the sign operators also that own the signs ultimately have to moderate it. That's partly just because there are rules on, in every region about what can be advertised on billboards near the highway.
So since you got the map up here, we had a couple people asking, do you operate only in the US? Is it available in Canada? And then another person asked, is this available in Europe at all?
So Blip is currently in the US and Canada. We have a much stronger, a pretty big network in the States, where we now have the fourth largest digital billboard network in the States. The fourth, the other three are big publicly traded companies that own a lot of the industry. In terms of Canada, we have I want to say 20 or 30 signs at this point, with a pipeline we think will be all over Canada within 6 to 12 months. We are having those conversations with media networks and sign operators there.
And I would imagine you're building out your networks wherever you can with other sign providers.
Yes, exactly. And we've added 400 signs in the last 5 or 6 months. We're growing very quickly. We're just trying to keep up with that growth, because sign operators everywhere are recognizing that this is a great new product, basically, to add to their offerings, where they can appeal to not just the top 2% of spenders, but the other 98% as well. So we are looking at expanding internationally as soon as we can, and we have people working on that.
And I'm seeing also a lot of data showing that a lot of existing traditional billboard operators are converting over to digital. So there's going to be a lot more inventory and opportunities that I think are going to come online here in the next few years.
Absolutely, especially in highly trafficked areas, big metro areas.
Like Chicago and Atlanta.
Yep, yep, and also in Europe, there's it's just all closer together, and so you're seeing a conversion pretty fast to digital billboards. So the opportunity is growing to have this kind of budget appropriate um, digital billboard advertising wherever you are. So let me just kind of show you. If I go in and I say, okay, I'm just going to use Utah because this is where I am. So we're based here in Provo, and there's a couple of signs right by us. Okay, so if you look here to the left of my screen, 85,000 average daily views is what we're saying. And that's, again, based on what the sign operator gives us. Now, that's the south side. There's also a north side. It looks like both directions, it's estimated that there are 85,000 views. And if
And
I,
by views, is that people coming by that sign every day?
yes, yes. And so if you decide that, hey, this is the right place for my business, you can select one or both of those as part of your campaign. And let's say you want to kind of come down here by Pleasant Grove as well, you're interested. So here and there, the sign operator hasn't provided the number of average daily views. So you either have to know the area, go and find that data, or maybe even ask us and we can go and find it. In general, we do have it, but we're working with sign operators who, you know, they may not know we don't actually have this in our system because they've uploaded a bunch of signs. So that's on us to go and find. And if you are creating a campaign and it doesn't show, come to us. So you might not want to do that sign. It's a risk because you don't know how many average daily views. So you move down to the next one. You say, well, where can I get other views? That's the one. So let's just say we grab that one because we can see the views and we know a little bit better, what we're getting if we start this campaign. And then we just come up here and say next. So we've got really three faces. And then you can say how much you want to spend for a maximum daily budget. Now, this won't spend if you don't get any impressions, if it doesn't display. It will only spend as your artwork is displayed. And you may say, I'm spending, $1,000 on my digital online, so I'm going to spend, $200 a day, or it may be $500 on digital online. So it's going to be a portion of your marketing mix is what I'm trying to say.
So a question just came in. Is there a minimum spend required?
I think 1 cent is the minimum for any display.
You could do like $5 a day if you wanted to and still get on there.
You could, and to be completely, transparent, we're testing this right now to see what $5 a day gets you, because we do have advertisers that do $5 a day. We have advertisers that do $50 a day. We have advertisers that do a lot more. Marketing 360 did more than $5 a day, and they saw great results. And now we're trying to test and see, okay, well, what does $5, what does $20, what does $50 a day get you?
Nice. Well, when you get that data, we definitely love an update.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's good data, no. If it's positive. No, we really want to understand this because we don't want to lead anyone astray. And if really you have to spend $50 a day or $20 a day to be effective, then we want to know that just as much as anyone else does. So let's say we decide, hey, we're going to go big. Big, is relative. And we're going to do $50 a day. So that's about, what is that? 50 times 30 is 100 or 1,500 a month.
1,500
a month. So let's actually go a little less, 25 a day. So $750 a month. That's less than you would spend on, you couldn't get on a digital billboard with traditional contracts with, $25 a day budget. And that's kind of what we're going for, is like those people who in general wouldn't be on those traditional contract billboards because it just doesn't make sense for them in their budget. The other reason that Blip is nice is just because of our broad reach, and you can spend a small amount on each sign instead of, a large amount on one sign, versus $10 on 10 signs or something like that. So, let's do a start date of the 29th, next Monday. And I'm not going to say ongoing because I kind of just want to know that I have an end date that it's not going to continue to spend if I forget about it or something. So let's say it goes till Monday the 2nd. So that's a little over a month.
So is there a minimum time frame, or you can choose any time frame as well?
You could do one day, you could do, one day in 1 hour and just put 1 cent as your budget. And then you could be up on that sign. You could wait by that sign, take a picture and put it on social media and say, I was up on a digital billboard. I mean, we are open to whatever anyone wants to do. Obviously we want people to do what's best for them. And so we're trying to understand what's best for everyone as well,
Right.
so that we can help.
And Jason and Christian, this will help answer your questions here, because they were asking what are off-peak times, and then the Christian's asking, well, how does it work when you want to when you want to advertise for high traffic? Is there a limit to how many advertisers can pick a certain day of time, say 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m. drive time?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have these schedules that are automatically kind of updated based on what you want. And then you can also, so max audience, we're saying that this is our estimate of when the most people will be driving by that billboard. 7 a.m. These lighter green areas are a little bit less trafficked. And so you may have a max per blip budget that is a little less than, for example, the max time. So during weekdays, you can see, this is rush hour traffic in the morning and the afternoon.
So you can set a different bid for low traffic, medium traffic, high traffic times if you want to within the campaign.
Exactly. And looks like my light just went off because I'm not moving around.
It's okay.
So daily commute and meal times. I guess if you guys can see me,
We can still see you. The glow of the screen is making you look great.
So meal times, single hour. And let's say you just want to do your custom schedule. I just want to get, people on the road in the middle of the night. I don't know why. Or I want to clear
Insomnia
out. That actually
medication.
doesn't make sense for me. I only want people who are in rush hour traffic. And you know what? 35 cents is the normal. It's the default. But I just want to make sure I'm on that board. So I'm going to up this to 50 cents because most people have it at 35 cents, and our algorithm favors the higher max per blip budget.
Is there any reporting? Another question came in. Is there any reporting that helps me set my bid per blip and let me know if I'm going to show or not?
There is, and we are working on more sophisticated reporting, especially as we start to work with agencies, because they have to be, really on the ball about all of the reporting. Right now, I can show you examples of our primary reports.
This is pretty slick, but I mean, you're still building out the system and building out some of the new tools to help choose bidding and that kind of stuff.
That's right. So, here's an invoice. That's not helpful there. There are these basically proof of performance. So it shows you, how many flips did you get on this sign? And then it shows you specifically when you got those flips and how much you were charged for each flip.
Is a flip and a blip the same thing?
Yes. I probably should be saying blip. It's a display. It's an 8-second, 6-second, 10-second, depending on, so every geography, every region has its own requirement from the government, usually state government, about how long a billboard has to keep a display up. And so that's governed by that and our sign operators. And most of the time it's between 6 and 8 seconds. And each of those blips or flips or displays, whichever one you want to use, is line itemed out here, is listed out here, and you can see the amount that you paid for that. So 2 cents at 5:12 p.m., 2 cents at 5:13. You know, it was 2 cents basically after about five. And so you can look at that and say, well, at four, you know, it's 5 cents, 6 cents, four, six, and you can start to make so you can calculate, you know, where am I getting the lowest cost per flip. Then you also have to think about, okay, well, when are most people on the road? And we do have some estimates right now that we're building into our system so that we can calculate those impressions for you, so you don't have to try to figure that out.
Got it. So at the end of the day, right now, you know your cost per display
Yep,
on this here, but you're going to eventually be upgrading your system to kind of build in some traffic data to go along with that. So, hey, here's your cost per display, and here's approximately how many people you would have reached with that display.
that's right. And right now, with our agencies, we actually are offering some manual work that we'll do on our end to help them propose and pitch to their clients around, you know, here's an estimate in this region, how many impressions you can get for what kind of budget, you know,
Okay.
specific for those regions where they're pitching.
Okay. So Mark had a question that says, after your ads are up and running, do you send any kind of report of when the ads ran and proof or an image? I think there was the report. You don't actually take a picture of the ad on the billboard. There's really no way to do that. I mean, right?
So actually, there is, when we have access to a billboard's on billboard camera that looks back up at the billboard, we can take those proof of performance images and provide them to our clients. And we love it when we can do that. We can't do that 100% of the time because, one, we don't always have, the billboard might not even have one of those cameras. And two, we might actually not have access to it.
Hmm.
Um, so sometimes, you know, our customers are going out and taking those photos themselves. And sometimes that's hard because one way we're different from traditional contracts is it's not guaranteed. Even if you said, here's when I want it and here's how much I'll pay, it might not show up. And that's hard. It might not show up because someone else is bidding much higher.
Hmm.
Someone else, or maybe it's just there's so many people and you kind of got in the line later than some of the others.
Yeah.
We are continually working on our scheduling algorithm to be as fair as possible and to really maximize the number of impressions that everybody gets. Ultimately, there's a limited amount of space on those boards. And so you just have to decide, you know, how much you're willing to kind of budget for it
Yeah.
and try to get that space.
It's really not that much difference from Google or Facebook advertising in that, Google or Facebook never actually takes a snapshot of when my ad actually displayed on a page.
Yeah.
All I get are the analytics,
Yeah.
right?
That's
That are
exactly
there.
right.
And so you've got similar, you're working to get the analytics on there as well as you can. And, while there may be a couple places where there's a camera can take a picture, ultimately we have to trust that the analytics are there. And as we saw with the Marketing 360, they actually did see a performance improvement. So at the end of the day, it's really the results that matter the most.
That's right. And it's hard. You know, it would be nice to be able to provide those images, and we're working on doing that to the extent that we can. But we're also working on the reporting so that and the metrics, like you say, the tracking, so that everyone has confidence, not just by seeing that their ad was up there, but ultimately what you really want is to see your conversions increase, your site traffic increase, things like that.
Absolutely.
So then you can just come here, upload some artwork. Um, let's see, this is,
Well, this will tie into another question that came up here while you're doing this. Are there any creative size standards? It seems to me, as I look through the system here, that every billboard is kind of a little different.
yeah, unfortunately, there are a bunch of different sizes. 896 by 288, 752 by 208, 704 by 200. So the more signs that you select, potentially the more artwork that you have to just resize to the right sizes, which can be a pain if you're doing more than, you know, 5 or 6 boards. But ultimately, I mean, it's incremental improvement over what has been the case. You're able to get on a billboard, and
Right.
we're actually, I hate to keep saying this, we're working on something, a feature that will allow it to be easier. And if it's just a little off, we actually do resize it on our system, and then you have to approve it. So it's not just resizing and it looks weird and you never see it. You have to approve once it's resized, did it kind of stretch it, or, you know, and we're trying to make sure that we don't resize it in a way that doesn't make sense. Like,
I was always surprised by how large some of these billboards are, yet how low the resolution really is. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
704 by 200, like, wow, and that's a pretty big billboard.
Yeah, they're far enough away that think about impressionist art. Not quite like that. It is, higher resolution than that, but they're far enough away that really this actually works really well on the
Yeah,
billboard.
they actually look pretty good given the resolution. I was very surprising.
Yeah. So you upload the art. I'm not going to do it here, but and then you can review it. It shows you your campaign name, the boards you selected. If you want to, you can go in and edit and change that if you've had different thoughts, your budget, etc. And then, sorry, I didn't mean to press that. You save and close the campaign. Once you launch it, if I save and close this, it doesn't actually launch. You have to put in everything. So I didn't add artwork, so it doesn't allow me to launch yet. But then you launch, and then it goes to our moderation. And if there are any issues, like you didn't add your credit card, payment methods, you can add a credit card. I've got a credit card on there.
And so within 24, 48 hours, the approvals are done.
All of the approvals are done, and there are notifications if there's anything wrong. If this self-serve process didn't completely go through, or and then you get a notification once it goes live, and if we have access, we can send you that proof of performance, or you can just log in and look at proof of performance. It would provide that as an option here.
So Bart, this is a self-serve system. People could just go in there, serve themselves. Obviously, you have support if people want to get in there, or if you're a larger account, I'm sure you can get some an account rep to work with or something, right?
That's right. And
Okay.
and if you're an agency, we have a reseller program where we also help agencies do this for their clients.
That's what I was going to get to. We've had several questions come in about that here. Do you have a white label version of this, or is it just actual, where I'm a reseller of it? That was one question that came in. There's another question I'll ask you in a second.
Yeah. So in terms of white labeling, we don't mind if our reseller partners basically just never tell their clients that they're using Blip for their billboard advertising that they're doing. We aren't catering to that per se, like our reports say Blip on them, for example, but we're working on ways where you can download it in CSV file instead of this PDF report, so that you could theoretically just take that information and put it in your own reporting.
Your own dashboard. Okay.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily a white label per se, but you've got no problem at all with agencies just utilizing your system for their clients.
Yeah. The only thing that we don't like in terms of white labeling, and this is basically just because we're an online platform, we're trying to, make sure that we're out there as the company that has this network and everything. We don't allow our partners to put our network of billboards up on a map on their website and say it's their network. And that's just because, it's confusing. For one, if clients find us and then someone else and they're like, well, whose network is this actually?
Right. Makes sense.
That's basically our bread and butter. We don't do cross-channel marketing, and we do billboards, and so we'd like to be known for that.
Another agency question came in here. What are the advantages to working with you as an agency? This person is an agency. And good question here. Do you have any kind of a special offer for agencies at the end of the webinar?
Yeah, actually, if you want to reach out to me at the end of the webinar, we do have a program specifically geared to agencies that allows you to basically get a bulk discount for what you bring in for your clients. And what was the other question?
I think that was it. What are the advantages to working with Blip as an agency? And is there any kind of a special offer at the end of the webinar?
Yeah. So contact me and we can definitely help you with that. In terms of advantages, the advantage really, hopefully, that you're looking for is that you can be more effective with your clients' ad spend. Even though there is a little bit of work up front to understand, billboards and how they fit with your current services and offerings, we are seeing some really good success. And so we're really excited about all the different agencies out there that currently mostly just do digital online, and how we now can open up this new well, not new, this old medium to them in a new way.
Yeah,
And
it's a neat way to kind of bridge the digital and real world mediums together.
that's right. And that's kind of a big thing right now. Like a lot of people are looking to do that. This is one of the few that I have found that's actually able to do that, which is it's really fun.
So, Bart, do you have any contact information you can share with the group here?
Yes. The best contact information is probably just email me, Bart at blipbillboards.com.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
Yes. Again, that's Bart at blipbillboards.com.
That's right.
Okay.
And I have a team. We help agencies, and then we also have another team that helps direct customers. All the way from small to enterprise. We cater to small because that's kind of the way we can add value to the industry. But we're totally happy to help enterprise customers as well if they come to us. So
Great. Bart, anything else you want to add?
I just want to thank you. This has been a lot of fun, Eric, and I think the world of advertising right now is really exciting. Blip isn't the only new thing out there, but it's a fun one, and hopefully this was helpful. Reach out to me if you have any questions or want to continue the discussion, and we'll keep it going from there.
Sounds good, Bart. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. This is really fascinating stuff. It's breathing new life into something that sounds very old fashioned, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks, Eric.
Bye, Bart.